what project registration is, that's our project registration form. It's similar to the minimum dataset form used by other jurisdictions, and it's your first step in initiating your human research project in our system by registering in REGIS. Depending on your answers in project registration, it actually helps identify if an ethics application, site application, or both are required, and it also determines what other information needs to be provided to complete those applications. So it's a really handy and important form as well. So some of you might not be familiar with what you're seeing on the screen here, so I'm just going to quickly touch on that before I jump into that project registration form. This is your login page, so your home page, landing page. When you log in, if you've never logged in before and you don't have any studies in the system, this is going to be blank. This top 5 projects here, not going to have any milestones due, and you're definitely not going to have any activities below here. So just starting from top left, and I'll go across the screen and describe what we're seeing here. Top 5 projects just shows you a rotating list of your currently accessed studies in the system. If you only have 5 studies in the system, they will be listed here. If you have more than that and you haven't accessed one recently, you can use your view all or the projects, just the icon at the top of the screen here, and that'll give you a full list of your studies in the system. Next is create a form. That is where you will create project registration. It's really nice and quick. You click on that, it's going to take us directly into the form, which you'll see soon. Below that is top 5 milestones due. So milestones in REGIS refer to, from an ethics point of view, progress reporting. Milestones from a governance point of view can refer to external HREC progress reporting if ethics does not exist in REGIS. First patient in and certificate of currencies. Your activities, do not be afraid if you log into the system and you don't have exactly everything I've got on the screen here. This is very much based on your role in the system. If I am a head of department or for Tasmania divisional director, or maybe a CE, I might have some approvals to have a look at, so I could be providing support. This is where I'll see I have some to action. You will get an email as well, but this is just a quick overview of what you've got going on in the system. Reviews is very much HREC centric. It is reviewers for applications, so if I've been assigned an application to review, I might have one here I can see. That's why I've got that tile popping up there. Projects, everyone will have a project tile here that again just kind of lets you go right into your projects list, and you can have a full look at that and see what's in the system. So again, if you're wondering why you don't have certain tiles, it's absolutely fine. It's based on your role in the system. Not everyone will have this. Okay, let's go ahead and create our project registration. So really nice and easy, guys. All I do on this homepage, I click new form. What that's going to do, it's going to open up that project registration form for me, and it's going to take me directly in there, and I can go ahead and complete that data. Anyone with a REGIS user account can create and submit project registration. If that person is not the CPI or PI, again, coordinating principal investigator or principal investigator, they will have automatic editor access on the ethics and any site applications generated. What that means is they can go ahead and then provide the data for the ethics applications or site applications, but ultimately can't submit it. It just gives them edit access so they can complete all that data. Only the CPI or anyone with delegate access can submit an ethics application. Only the PI or anyone with delegate access can submit the site application. So very first page we have here is the introduction page. It just provides useful information, instructions, guidance, and a couple of important notes. You're advised on this page here, so we can see at a minimum what you need to go ahead and complete your project registration form. So really nice and easy. It just lets you know basic project details, site information, CPI, PI details. The minimum document that you need to upload to submit project registration is your study protocol, but you can also complete your project-wide documents here, and we'll touch on that when we get to that section too. But this is just letting you know at a minimum what you need to complete that form here. When you see gold text on the screen, it will provide you a hyperlink, and it will just open a new tab and show the information regarding that. I do note that we probably need to include a bit of Tassie information here because we have Tasmania come into the system very recently, but we will update that. But currently we've got just some information regarding ACT New South Wales Health. And just below that, we've got some quick reference guide link here as well. What you'll also notice at the top of the screen is a little help icon. So it's just a little question mark there. When you click on that, that will provide you with page-specific information and guidance. So as you go through any forms in the system, Each page you're on might have different information, so you'll have different information and guidance in this part here as well. Again, anything you can see underscored there, you can go ahead and click. It's going to open a new tab for you with that information. I don't need to action anything on this screen. It is an FYI, just letting us know what's going on with this form and how to complete it. So I'm just going to go next. Something quickly, just at the top of the page here, preview or download a clean copy of this form. You will not have validate, that's just because of my permission, so don't worry about that. Save will allow you to save your progress, and you can go next and previous to go back and forth through the form. What we've got here is our previous ethics application. So what we're looking at here is the types of project registration scenarios we have in the system. Ethics is in New South Wales or ACT, or ethics is external to New South Wales or ACT. So when ethics exists in REGIS or it's managed by New South Wales or ACT HREC, or when ethics exists outside of REGIS, meaning it's managed by any other NMA jurisdiction, such as, for example, Queensland or Victoria. When ethics is to be managed by New South Wales or an ACT HREC, what you would do at this point is you'd select no. What you're indicating here is you're going to say, look, I actually need to create my ethics application in the system. By saying no at this point, when I submit my project registration form, I'm going to have an ethics application generated in the system that I'll need to complete and submit. By selecting yes here, I'm not going to create an ethics application if it falls under NMA, so National Mutual Acceptance. What I then need to do is put some data in here so I can then go ahead and let the system know I do not need an ethics application created in REGIS because my ethics is external and falls under NMA. So I keep saying NMA, and if you're not very familiar with it, little question mark just on this last question here, A5, is application being reviewed under NMA scheme or EPCT, so early phase clinical trial. If you click on that, there we go, we've got more information regarding NMA here. So really useful if you're not 100% sure, please don't submit your project registration form. You will create ethics if you're not familiar. I do highly recommend having a look at this NMA website. Something else on this page here I just want to let you know is it's asking for an ethics application ID. So if I already have an ethics application in the system and I pop this in, I would get a yellow warning message popping up on the screen. This to me lets me know ethics doesn't exist in the system using this ethics ID, so I'd go ahead and create this application. If I did get a yellow warning message on the screen, I would not submit project registration. It's a really big, bright yellow message on the screen. It will have my CPI details, so my coordinating principal investigator's details, and I just ask them to add my site to the one that's already registered in the system. So again, you get that information coming up on the screen there as well. For this session, I'm going to select no, because I want to go ahead and create an ethics application. Something else to note is for applications to be completed under NMA, so again, National Mutual Acceptance, project registration should be completed by the lead site. So by indicating no here, what we're going to see at the end of this, when I submit, is our ethics application is going to generate, and we'll touch on that just in a moment. I'm going to go next. And what we've got here is part B. This is our project details section, so really nice and important. What else is very important, guys, is when you are completing project registration, that you take your time with it. There's no need to kind of rush it to get it submitted. Once you do submit it, it is not editable. So really important you take your time completing the details here. So what we can see here is part B, project details, just scrolling down just to show you every question on this page will need to be completed. Project title is what your application is going to look like when you create a system, so you can search using the project title. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put in, so I've got my study title there. So when I'm looking in the system and I put this in my search bar, this is going to pull up the study I'm after. So this is again how your study will look like in the system. So we just put our summary here as well. Okay, we won't go into much detail, and we're going to go ahead and complete some information here. So again, we've got little red asterisks here. These are mandatory fields. We're going to make sure we go ahead and complete these. Study type is probably one of the most important questions you'll complete in the system here. Reason being is based on your study type, a lot of questions or fields will generate or be hidden based on what you're going to say here. REGIS uses smart form technology, and again, that just means it knows to either hide or show fields or questions based on your study type. So very noticeable for clinical trials, and we'll go ahead and click on that. And you can see I've just had some more questions here populate. So if I were to say go clinical research, I don't have those questions. Again, clinical trial is a little bit more we have to complete here as well. Little question marks you'll see next to certain questions will give you question-specific information and guidance. Again, top of the screen, if we click on that, it's got different information based on what page we're on here. So I'm just going to complete some data, guys, just to get us through this. I can't really tell you exactly how to fill in the forms. These will be based obviously on the type of study you're creating. Not everyone's creating clinical trial. So again, I'm just going to complete the mandatory data to get through here. If there's any questions you're not sure about, again, I do highly recommend just highlighting over the little question marks. It will provide you with that useful information. Okay, I'm going to make life easy for myself. So I'm completing this in a way where I know I'm not going to have to fill in as much questions during the rest of the session here. So what we have at the bottom here as well, project sponsor. Okay, so just going to go ahead. I'm going to throw in just a sponsor there. If I can't find a sponsor, I want to put my project sponsor and I can't find it, you can say it doesn't exist there and you can manually enter that data. So just a little tip there, guys. But I'm just going to go ahead and we're just going to select one. I want to create ethics in REGIS. So I'm going to select the ethics, the HRECs that do exist in the system. And this is a full list of our HRECs that exist in REGIS. So I'm just going to go ahead and select one of these. Let me go with Southwest. Okay, and I can see exactly the organization and the HREC name that falls under there. So it's just letting me know it's the Human Research Ethics Committee here. I've completed all the data on this page, so I'm going to go to the next page. So what we can see here is our research sites, and this is where we can put the details, including what sites we want created in the system and what sites might be external to REGIS. When ethics does exist in REGIS, what we can see here is we're creating a full list of sites that our HREC is being asked to review. If my ethics was external, the only tabs I would be seeing would be ACT Health and New South Wales and Tas Health. I would not have this other health jurisdictions or organisations tab, and that is correct because you'd be seeking any ethics approval for external sites through your HREC. Ours is going to be in REGIS for this session. That's why I've got this option to manually add other health jurisdictions or organisations. So I'm just going to go to my New South Wales Health tab. So currently, my ACT Health tab is highlighted in this gold color here. That means I'm currently on the ACT Health tab. I want New South Wales and Tas, so I'm just going to click on that. How you add a site is really nice and easy. We've got the add another button here. We click on that and we've got our information we can provide here. So what we can see is we've got project center and project site. So a project center could be an LHD, so local health district, a specialty health network, pillar organisation, affiliated health organisation, or other health organisation operated by New South Wales Health. The information I've just said is on the page here, so you don't have to worry about remembering that. We've got the information on the page. A project site is just a site that would fall under that centre. If you're unsure of what project centre to use, what you could do is you could go up here. Okay, if you're unsure, we've got a little search bar here and just say I want to add Liverpool Hospital as a site. So I'm just going to start putting Liverpool Hospital. I can see that it is a site in the system. So just click on that and I can see that it falls under Southwest Sydney Local Health District. So this is just letting me know this project centre is going to be Southwest Sydney and that'll let me pull the site. So just to show you, I'm just going to start typing in South and I do have some options here. Okay. And I was after Liverpool Hospital and here it is. So this is just letting you know how you can do that. Here we have to add the principal investigator, so the PI. If the PI is not in REGIS at the moment, they haven't had an account created, what you need to do is you can just email them or call them if that's easier. And just let them know to register an account, or you can use this invite to register option here. just in the top of the screen here. If I click on that, I click add another user, okay, and I can put in, so let me say test at test.com. Okay, this person doesn't have an account, and I can tell that by it saying invite test at test.com. If, say, for example, this person did have an account, so we do have a test account in here. Okay, they have been found, so that lets me know they actually have an account. So that's another way just to confirm if you're not 100% sure, this person does have an account. What you would do though if the person didn't have an account, and we'll just go again. Okay, we can invite them to register an account only, or we can say, look, they have access to this particular form, which is our project registration form. So I'd invite them and I'd hit save and send, and it will send that person an email with a link to register an account. Once they register, they'll have automatic access to go ahead and have a look at this particular form in the system. I won't send that just in case the off chance there is someone with an account at test.com that has that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to add myself because I want to go ahead and have this site application under me. Something that is fairly new in the system as of late October last year is the ability to add other team members at this point. So what we can do here, because it is a clinical trial in this particular instance, I'd have the option to add up to 2 admin contacts with edit and submit access, as well as an associate investigator with edit and submit access if I needed to. For non-clinical trials, you can add up to 2 admin contacts with submit access. Admin contacts in REGIS will just, they will be included in system correspondence that is sent to your CPI or your PI. So that's what an admin contact is in the system. And I keep saying edit and submit access. That is something new we have in the system as well. That's allowing delegated authority. So in this instance, this is a site application. So if I add a team member, and I'm going to add test, and I'm going to say, look, this is my, let's say admin contact, allow access to REGIS form. So when this site application generates, I'm going to say, look, I'm going to say this person can have edit access here. Do they have the authorization to submit the SSA, so the site application and any other project related forms on behalf of the, in this instance, the PI? If I say yes, this person will now have edit and submit access to the SSA or the site application generating in the system. If I say no, they just have edit access. So this is just something that's a little bit new in the system and just allows delegation of a delegated user to submit on behalf of the PI in this particular instance here. If I am not the principal investigator and I complete this project registration form, Dennis will not automatically get edit and submit access. The PI still has overview and they will get an email asking them to confirm Dennis's request to have submit access. So no one in your study team can do that on behalf of your PI or CPI. They still have to have the overview of who is going to be able to submit on their behalf. So just wanted to be really nice and clear with that. If you're completing this on behalf of your CPI PI, you can't just delegate everyone with submit access. The PI or CPI still needs to see who is going to have submit access and actually approve that. I'll go ahead and let Dennis have that, I don't mind. So that is our New South Wales Health tab and TAS Health tab. If I wanted to add further sites, I could do so by adding another row. If I added one too many rows, I don't need this. We use this red bin icon and that will delete that row. Any sites we had here, remembering that ethics exists in REGIS to see this particular tab, okay, they're not going to create site applications in the system. And I'll just show you why. What we're seeing here is we are trying to add perhaps a university site, private organization site here, or maybe we're trying to add a site from Victoria here. What we do is we select where it's coming from. So, you know, Queensland, we put the Queensland site here and we put the PI's details here as well. We're just creating a full list of sites we want our HREC to approve. That includes sites external to REGIS. So this is manual data entry here. If I go to the next page here, you can see I went to the next page and I didn't complete data on it, and I have a red X. If I try and submit this application with a red X anywhere in this left-hand menu, it's not going to let me. It's going to let me know I have data that's incomplete. So I'd go ahead and click on that and provide the data as appropriate. What we're looking at here is the CPI details. And what we want to do is go ahead and complete this data here. So again, the principal investigator has the overall responsibility of the study at their site, whereas the CPI has the overall responsibility for the research project at all sites. If you are not the CPI, pop in their name here. And again, if they don't have a user account, you can use this invite to register option, and that'll send them an email asking them to register. If you are the CPI, select yes. It's going to pull the information you have in the system here. Just like we saw with the site application, guys, if we want to add any admin contacts at this point, we can use the add another, and we can complete that data here, adding that administrative contact here. Again, the admin contact is included in system correspondence alongside your CPI or PI as appropriate to your application. This also allows them to have edit and submit access if approved by the CPI. So that's the same option we just saw on the previous page. I'll just remove that. I don't need to add that here. But you do have that option at this point to add that information. Moving through, we've got our upload attachments section here. So what we're going to do here is we can upload any documents we want to send through, in this instance, because ethics exists in REGIS, to our ethics application. Any documents attached at this point during project registration do not need to be the final documents. You can upload draft documents here. That is absolutely fine. If ethics was external to REGIS, what I would be asked to upload here would be my ethics approval, as well as my ethics documents and my ethics application. If my ethics approval was not, my ethics wasn't approved at that point, I'm still waiting for approval, but I wanted to create my site applications for New South Wales or Tas Health, you can absolutely do so. Obviously, you can't have your site applications approved unless your ethics is approved. So you'll need to make sure once your ethics was approved, you upload it in the system. But at this point, we're just going to add our study protocol. So I've got some, let's put some, let's say training study protocol. I'm going to say version 1. I'm going to say 1st of March to keep it nice and easy. How I'm naming my document here is how I want it to look as it appears on my final approval or authorization. So really, really nice and clear descriptions here, guys. If you add a document and it doesn't have a version and or date, just add the document title. But just be very mindful when you are adding documents that you're really nice and clear and happy with the way it looks, because once it's reviewed and ultimately approved and authorized, that's how the document will pull onto your approval email. So just something to be really mindful of. We can see at the top that this is automatically a study protocol, so we can't change this document type here, and that's expected functionality. This is where our protocol will live, and when we want to add further documents, we use this add document option just below. So I do have my documents just to the side, so I'm just going to click and I can drag my document over and just drop it in there. You can use the browse option, guys, and that would just bring up your documents to look through to find your document there. I just find this a bit easier, especially during training. We do have examples of how to name your documents again. If you shorthand your document or put abbreviations in the document descriptors, just remember that's how it's going to appear when it's reviewed and how it will be approved. So just something to really be mindful of. So I just selected the add another button. I'm going to add 2 documents here. So I'm adding my project-wide documents here. I'm not going to add my site-specific documents here. I'm adding my project-wide document here because this is going to pull through to my ethics application once it's created. We've got document type, so we've got a big list here, guys. You might not have exactly what you're after. Choose what's closest to the document you're after. Your research office understands that there is a list that we have in the system. It's not something you can freehand document type, but you can describe your document as you like. So documents I have, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a participant consent form. So I've started typing into the search bar and I can see I've got a few that have participant. So I'm going to go consent form. And again, I'm just going to say, look, it's a master. Awesome, I've got one here, fantastic. Just because I kind of have a way I like to do things, I'm going to add another document, then I'm going to drag my documents. You can add your documents however you like, but just for this, I'm just going to show you, I want one more document to add. Okay, and what we're going to look at is a questionnaire. I've got a questionnaire as well. So I've just started typing questionnaire in, and I can find it. You can also just scroll, guys, and have a look, whatever's most appropriate to your study. I have one here as well, fantastic. So you can see that I've shorthanded this document to master pick form version 1 dated 1st of March. If you want to write participant consent form, you can absolutely pop it in there. However you want your document to appear, just again, I'm reiterating it. I'm just trying to get it really drilled in so you understand once something's approved, that's how your document's going to look in the system. So I've got 2 documents here, and I've got my documents on the side here. I can click drag and drop. Okay, and browse just lets you go in and have a look at these documents. Mine's somewhere else, so I'm just going to make life easy for myself. Click drag and drop. You can add as many documents as you like here, remembering it doesn't have to be the final document at this point. Okay, project registration form isn't going to be submitted directly to your research office. It's just an attachment in your ethics or site application. Okay, this is you creating or providing the minimum data required to then create your ethics and or site applications. So again, it can be a draft document at this point, and we'll touch on in the next little section on how we upload a final document. So again, your study protocol will live at the top of the screen here, and any documents, project-wide documents you want to pop in will be at the bottom here. We're going to go next, and this is really important. I touched on this just at the beginning of the session. Once you do submit project registration, it cannot be edited, and that's what we see in this red little warning message here. Just make sure you've got exactly what you expect to be generated on the system. If you're only expecting to have site applications generated, you're not going to see this, a HREC. So HREC is your human research ethics application. If you're expecting to see an ethics and site applications generated, fantastic, you'd see that, and you'd see the site applications for New South Wales or Tasmania that would be generated in REGIS. I'm not going to see any sites external to REGIS listed here, just to be really nice and clear. If you added 2 sites, you can only see 1. Pop back to part C, just have a look at that and add the site if it hasn't popped in there. But this is going to show you a full list of what's going to be created in REGIS. To me, this looks good. This is what I expect to see in the system. So what I'm going to do now, everything's completed. I'm not going to touch anything else. I've got all the information I want in there. Again, anyone with a REGIS user account can create and go ahead and submit this project registration. This is exactly what I expect to see, guys. I indicated ethics was to be created in REGIS. Once I submit a project registration, I can see I've got my ethics application generated. Fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted to see. If my ethics was external, I would see all of the site applications that I indicated under New South Wales or Tasmania, and they would be generated here. That's the only difference you would see if ethics was external. You'd have your in progress site applications generated below. What we're going to do is, this is our ethics application. If I was jumping into the system for the first time, I could go ahead and go to my home page. This is just a little tip, guys, if you're not familiar, or for those that are quite fresh. This Research Ethics Governance Information System header just in the top left-hand corner, if I click on that, that's going to take me back to my home page or my landing page. I was recently working on my initial project registration, and you saw me title it PID-THSTE. It's one of my most recently worked on or accessed projects, so really nice and easy. I've just logged into the system. I want to complete that ethics application. I click on the project identifier, so that's our project registration number. It's a unique ID. I click on that, and it's going to take me to the page we were just on. And that's exactly the page we were just on, guys. So I just wanted to show you how you navigate from your home page. But if you're completing it all at once, you stay on this page and you'd go ahead. If you have edit access, you will see this underscored. If you do not have edit access to the study or edit and submit, it will not be underscored. It will just look like this, and you won't be able to actually access it to edit it. So you'd just have to contact your CPI or your PI, depending on what type of study it was, and get that appropriate access. Your CPI or PI can just expand this row, so clicking anywhere here, and they can use this invite user to register or share application option. So if I click on that, just like we saw when I was saying invite someone to register the application, okay, add a user, and I'm just going to put, say, test in here, my test account, and I'm going to say this person can have edit and submit access. I'm going to hit save and send. So again, this is something your CPI can do, or your PI, depending on the application. I can see that that user has now been added. So that's another way to do it as well. What we can see on the screen here, just because obviously there's a few people that are quite new, you have an option to kind of see the hierarchy of your application here, your study. This is your parent document, the PID, the project registration we just completed. Based on our responses, we get children documents created, so our ethics or our site applications. This is our application. If we had a study that was approved, we'd have one more branch and it would be our project. The project just shows you that it's been approved or authorized. So that's what these little branches are. The history is just the history of what's happened on this, this study, and it's just brand new, so nothing's happened yet. If you don't like seeing that, you can just collapse it by using this arrow, and you can just have this a bit wider. Column chooser as well, guys. You can decide what you want to see on the screen here. We've tried to make it a basic view for when you get in the system, so feel free to play with it. It's not going to ruin anything. I'm just going to leave mine as is, but you do have filtering options and see what kind of columns you want to see on the screen as well. But what you've got at the moment looks pretty good. If you click on it, you close the eye. That means you're not going to see that particular column. You'd have to save your progress, and it will read what you've saved there. So I'm just going to close mine there. If you no longer want to go ahead with your study, you can delete it. I won't go, I guess, too in depth with this, because I think once you're getting started in the system, you just want to go ahead and edit it. But you do have the option, if you've incorrectly created something, to delete it. Always good to touch base with us or your research office before you delete anything if you need a little bit of guidance. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter my ethics application. So with the ethics application, guys, I'm not going to tell you what to put into your application, because I think that's just a little bit hard for me to provide that type of information. Every study is different. I'm going to show you how to complete the application, but also kind of some information I think is quite important to complete when you are going through it. So our ethics application is very big compared to our site application. So this is going to take just a little bit longer, but I'm not going to go through every single detail here, guys. I just want to be really nice and clear, because these sections are very much going to be based on how your study is going to be created. There are certain questions I absolutely could not provide you with the answers with here. Very similar to project registration, guys. What we're seeing here is our introduction page. There's something I just want to touch on as well. This is an NHMRC form. So the REGIS team, we very rarely make changes to it. It's a national form. So I just want to make that nice and clear. There might be things in here you're like, oh, I wish that would change. We can't make big changes to the form because it is a national form. So I just wanted to kind of say that before we went right through the application here. All right, so again, we've got our gold links here. Clicking on those opens a new tab at the top of the screen for you. You can read through information. You don't lose this page. This is really handy, guys. If you're not super familiar with national statement here, you can click on certain links and they'll provide you with also conduct, responsibility of conduct as well within the code, and just really useful information on this this page if you're very new to kind of getting through research as well as REGIS here. This has to be read. These 5 sections here have to be read and acknowledged in order to continue. If I try and continue to the next page, I can't. So you can see I've got an error. I just scrolled down and I look for the red text. I haven't selected that. If I wanted to complete any page at a later point, guys, you can kind of just bunny hop. So for example, I've just clicked evaluations from the left-hand menu, but you can see I've got information I need to complete on this side here. I can't submit my ethics application or site. You'll see the same thing in the site application if I have anything that is red in the left-hand menu. So what we're going to do, acknowledge and continue, we're going to go next. Every question on this page is mandatory. This is our project overview. So you can see information from project registration has pulled through. So you can see here certain things have pulled through from project registration. That's why it's really important when you're completing data that you take your time with project registration. That information has popped through here. I'm going to just kind of get through this form, guys, because there is a lot of information on this page. So I'm going to put some really terrible data in here. Do not put this in if you're completing an application. I'm doing this so we can get to the parts I want to really show you the information on. Project team. So any kind of team members I've added during project registration. So in this example, I've got a CPI and I've got a PI because I had 2 team members there I added. What we can see is I'm listed twice. This is fine, guys, because your CPI could also be a PI. Don't remove them. This is correct. They have 2 different roles on the application. They're the coordinating principal investigator and also possibly the principal investigator. So if you're seeing duplicates there, don't freak out. If you've added someone as a CPI or PI as well, and they're the same person, they're going to be listed twice because they've got different roles in the system. So that to me is correct. If I need to add anyone further, add another row and I can put the data in there. If my PI has changed, or my CPI has changed, so my coordinating principal has changed since I submitted project registration, you'd update the data here. Okay. And you'd go ahead and just complete the data for the CPI here as it needs to be updated. So I'd have to update their email address as well and provide their information. So that's the only difference you'd have to do if your CPI has changed since project registration. You would need to notify your research office so they can also update the owner once you submit your ethics application. So we just want to make sure if we're doing any changes like that, we just want to make sure we let our research office know upon submission. So you can see here they're automatically allocated as the CPI because that's how we noted them in project registration. So a lot of automation in the system. You don't have to duplicate information. And I'm just popping through just to show you this person is the PI as well. So I'm putting in terrible data, guys. Again, if you're putting in data, please don't do what I'm doing. It will come back to you. I'm just going to pop through these questions, guys, because again, I can't tell you exactly what you should be putting here. You can see that some of the information is pre-filling, which is really good. So this is something I indicated during project registration. Fantastic. You've got some more information. If you're not 100% sure if it's the correct type of study, okay, you can have a look at this information here and provide the correct information if that is now incorrect. So again, I'm just going to pop some data in. This is not a mandatory field. See, there's no red asterisk. I don't have to complete this data. You don't have to complete data where there's no mandatory fields, unless obviously it does apply to your study. So just something just to note, and I'll show you if I go to the next page. It's taken me to the next page because it knows that there is its mandatory data has been completed. The data that's not mandatory is fine to keep going through. Excellent. I don't have to put anything on this page here. Because I said I had a clinical trial, I've got to put a bit more information in, guys. If your study is not a clinical trial, you don't have to complete as much data. I'll be completely honest. Obviously, with clinical trials, there's a bit more information and safety implementations that we have to make sure we look after. So what I'm going to do, I've got a couple of tabs here, so I can't just go to the next page. I've got to complete the data here, just so you know. So again, I'm going to put the worst data in the world here, but that's just so I can get you through this particular field. Based on your responses, guys, you can see sometimes information or questions will generate based on what I respond. So if I say yes here, I've got to provide more data. I'm being very, very clear with my data that I know I can get through very quickly, but obviously, depending on your responses, you will see certain fields and questions are generated. So that actually generated a question for me. And you'll see that as you go through the forms. So smart form technology, guys, in play there, just being mindful based on what you your study type is, you will be asked to provide further information sometimes. So I look like I'm rushing through here, guys, but to be honest, I really can't advise you exactly what you should be popping in here. I can help you with system queries, but these type of questions, if you're not 100% sure, again, use your little help icon at the top of the page here. Or you can contact the reviewing research office. If there's something you're not entirely sure about, save your progress. so you don't lose all your good data in there, and just contact your research office as well. This is my favorite page to go through during training because every single question on this page needs to be completed. So apologies if I make anyone dizzy. I'm just mindful that we've got a little bit more to go through. So I'm just going to make sure we complete this data. So we've got a couple more there. Fantastic. It'll let me know if I've missed anything. Good, I haven't missed anything. This is kind of an FYI page, I like to call it. Just lets you know, is everything green on that side so far? Fantastic. What you're going to do next is upload some documents. This is letting you know what's next. These from 2, it won't let me highlight it, from 2 to 5. This is just saying, hey, just make sure this is all good so far. So our study protocol is here, fantastic. If I need to upload a final copy, maybe that was a draft copy of my study protocol, what I would do at this point is I'd go ahead and hit the red X, because remember, project registration, you can go ahead and upload draft documents. Once you've got your final study protocol or any document, you pop it in here. Same thing here. See how I've got my 2 master documents I initially submitted. They've pulled through from project registration. We don't delete the whole row, guys. That's unnecessary work on your part. It's as simple as removing that electronic document there and uploading the final document. Okay. If you need to update the footer, if it was a draft document, I don't think you really need to update the version, but if you need to update the footer, you could do so there, and you can just say, look, it's the 2nd of March. And I'll keep mine as the 1st because I love my OCD. If you've got any further documents you need to add at this point, that's fine. Add document, choose the document type as appropriate, add the descriptor as we already did, and you'd attach the document. If you've added one too many rows because you thought you had one more to go, you can just remove that row using that little bin there. The project registration has been automatically attached to this application. Again, when ethics exists in REGIS, your research office wants to see a full list of sites they're expected to review with the HREC there. So we don't remove that. We can't remove it. It's automatically attached. Again, guys, really being mindful with how you describe your documents. That's exactly how they're going to be reviewed and ultimately approved for you. What we've got here is we've got some data that automatically pulls. So we indicated we were going with Southwest Sydney HREC, and we can see that details here. If you meant Southeast Sydney, guys, don't submit this. Go ahead and change it. You can absolutely change the HREC if you put the wrong one in. Do it at this point. So if I go Southeast Sydney, okay, bang, I've changed it. It's absolutely fine. It's not going to go Southwest and you're going to call Southeast and you're going to say, hey, Southeast Sydney, why haven't you looked at my ethics application yet? I submitted it. We've got the wrong HREC there. It happens. It's not the end of the world. But if you see at this point you've got the wrong one, you go ahead and you find the right one you want and you just update it here. What you have here is the review pathway. If you are not sure if it falls under greater than low risk or low or negligible, save your progress. Okay, and contact your reviewing research office. The reason you should do that, guys, instead of submitting it and hoping it's right, is it's going to come back to you if it's wrong. So you're just stopping that back and forth and you're kind of getting the one submission in instead of having to then go and fix it up and redo it. It's just the time that you don't want to waste that time. If you can just kind of save your progress, contact that reviewing research office. Maybe you might need to just chat with them for a little bit just to understand if it's a greater than low risk or low or negligible. This will save you a lot of time, guys. Highly recommend just contacting that research office. Mine's a clinical trial, so I'm just going to be good and say, look, it's greater than low risk. I've already got my question pre-filled here. Again, there's data that's pre-filling from project registration. So I'm going to go next. If I was someone with edit or submit access, I would be listed below the CPI here, and I'd have the option to certify the application as well. So only the CPI or anyone with edit and submit access can go ahead and provide this declaration. So I'm going to say certify and hit next. Again, anyone with edit and submit, so delegate or your CPI, will be able to then generate the HREC, which is your ethics application. So yes, all my application documents are attached. I understand and would like to proceed, and I can hit this generate HREC document. If you are not someone with delegate submit access or the CPI, hit save and let them know it's ready for submission. Okay, so what's happening now is my application is being submitted to the research office. I get an option to download the application form and attachments if I want to. I don't need to, I don't really want to at this point, but you can. If you click on that, it just downloads a temporary zip file at the bottom of the page for you. And this just lets you know it's been submitted to this research office. Fantastic. So I'm going to close that. So I'm just going to expand that. When ethics exists in REGIS, once I submit my ethics application, that's when the site applications will generate. If ethics was external, we would have already seen the site applications generated. And that's what we can see here. We've got now our site application to go ahead and complete. Same scenario, guys. If you're in here and you go, I can't click on it like an editable version, you don't have edit access. That's what's happening. You'd have to contact the PI and just let them know to give you the edit or edit and submit as appropriate to your role. And you'll have the hyperlink here and you can go ahead and just click on it and get taken directly into that site application. This entire page is all pre-filled from your ethics and project registration in the system. If ethics is external, that's okay. This page is still going to be entirely pre-filled from your project registration. So I'm not touching anything here, guys. If anything was incorrect, be very, very mindful. If you're changing information of an ethics application already in the system, the data is not going to match. So be very mindful. Anything you change as in a drop-down menu is going to affect the review of your application. Absolutely add more information if you need to in your project summary. Okay, just be very mindful. The information here has already been generated based off information provided. So if you change it, there's going to be changes. So there's going to be more time allocated to your review. Just be very, very mindful. So we've got Part B site team. A lot of text on the screen, but very, very useful if you are getting in the system for the very first time. Just allows you to understand roles in the system. So principal investigators and associate investigators. Other research personnel requiring access to the site and admin contacts. So I won't read all of that to you, but it's really useful if you are not familiar with roles in the system. Just scrolling down, what we can see here, we've got some information pre-filled again. So this is where your principal investigator will be listed, as well as any contacts, admin contacts or such you might have listed during project registration. So we can see that my admin contact I listed is here. If your principal investigator has changed from project registration, just update the detail here. That's how you can do it. Really nice and simple. That's the quickest way to just update the PI details. Again, if you do change the PI, let your research office know when you submit so they can update the owner to the PI that is correct. So I'm just going to pop in some details. These are mandatory fields again, guys. We see the red asterisks. I have to complete this data. If you're not sure about a position, again, this gives you an example. And again, with employer, little question marks, question specific information and guidance. So I think I was Southwest, that might be good. Not a mandatory field. You don't have to complete this data, but obviously if you have it, it's really good to put it in there. Let's go radiology. You have a question here that has to be completed. So are they a New South Wales or a Tas Health staff member at the site? So the site you've created, so mine was Southwest Sydney, I'm going to say yes. And I've got my details automatically populating here. So I've got some data pre-filling here. It's pulling from my profile. Your profile is here in the top right hand corner bubble. If you click on that, you can manage your profile and you can pop data in there as appropriate. So again, I've got my admin contact here. Excellent. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say they're a research fellow, they're at Southwest Sydney. Okay, and I've already indicated what access they have to the application. My study is a clinical trial, so I need to add an associate investigator. The reason I have to add an associate investigator is that person needs to be able to act as an alternate if my principal investigator is away. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say Kylie is, she's an associate professor. There we go. So here is where I can indicate their role. They're an associate investigator, or are they an external investigator or researcher, or other? She's an associate investigator. I'm going to say yes. She is a member of this site, and they will act as the substitute if the PI isn't unavailable. So again, it's a mandatory role that needs to be completed if your PI is away and it is a clinical trial. Okay. As she's an associate investigator, I can add her with submit and edit access as well. I'm going to say yes, she can have submit access. Why not? If I need to add further team members, I can do so by adding the add another button. If I've added one too many, we just remove it using the little bin icon. Any team members you add additionally, you will have to complete a bit more data on the next page, and I'll just show you what I mean by that. Is she's now a site team member, so I have to pop some data in here. That's not mandatory, so I'm keeping life really simple for myself, guys. I'm completing the minimum data I know I can get away with. If you have this information, pop it in. It's really good if you have it. If you indicate that your team member is a student, you've got a bit more information to complete here, guys, okay? So again, smart form technology, it knows when to show or hide information. Once I've added the data for Kylie there, so my additional site team member, we get to part C, which is our department and services. So this is really quite important, guys. You've got to list each department that's involved in the research at the site. So that's anywhere resources will be used, such as staff, services, investigations, even supporting departments such as medical records or imaging. Also, you have to add the PI and associate investigators here as well, because you're using them as a resource for this study. So just something to be really mindful of. What's really important as well is that you've already spoken with your head of department or divisional director about the study, so they're aware, and when it goes to them for their support, they can just go ahead and provide that support. So what we're going to do to add a head of department or divisional director, really nice and easy, we add another. If you see this color text here and it says, look, no department head can be found, and you've actually selected a department, save your progress, contact your research office. They will contact us, and we have a formal process of adding head of departments where perhaps they aren't added in the system. So just contact your research office, don't submit the application, hit save, contact them, we can get it done pretty quickly. You have a list here of the common departments that have been provided from your research office. Okay, so I can go clinical manager there, and I can see someone has been allocated as that department head. You can add multiple departments as well, guys. Don't just think you can just add one, you can add absolutely multiple there as well. Something to be mindful of is if anyone is listed in the application as also the head of department, just contact your reviewing research office before submission. You can have a head of department in your applications, it happens, and what we can do is we have the ability to list alternate departments. So for example, live-clinical manager alt or alternate, and we can have an alternate department head listed. So it's not it's not a hard stop for you. Head of departments also, or divisional directors also are in applications. It happens. We can also have two head of departments under one department as well. So again, contact your research office, they'll have a chat with us and we can work that out with them, putting a second head of department there that you'll be able to select. C4 is really important, guys. It's the best way to really summarize exactly what your head of department or divisional director is going to be supporting from their department resource-wise. This is the best place to put it because when your head of department or divisional director gets a request for support for a site application, this is what they read. It doesn't have to be a whole novel. It's just got to be a real nice summary that they can clearly understand, okay, you actually just want A, B, and C from my department. So really nice and easy. Make sure you provide more information than that. Again, you can add as many head of departments as appropriate to your study, okay? You can just keep hitting add another and add as many as appropriate there. I'll just remove these because I'm just going to add one. Okay, we're just going to remove that. And we're going to move to the next page. So recruitment records, tissue and data again, depending on your responses, you might be asked to provide more information. I can't exactly tell you exactly what to put in here, so I'll just kind of move through to the next page. Same for our part E, site costing and funding. So something a little bit different with the site costing and funding is if there are any financial costs associated with your project, you would need to select yes and complete the information. If you indicate there is funding, you need to upload a budget site document, study document in the next page. If the study type indicated at project registration was clinical trial, like mine is, you can see that there's all this information on the page there. So I'm adding minimum data I need to here. And you can see I've got some mandatory documents because my study is a clinical trial. So I need to add these as a minimum. So add document row. So we've got certificate of currency. Once I add it, it disappears. Next one. Indemnity, it's gone. Automatically, my ethics application has attached. Okay, and we've got some information at the top of the screen. Ethics external. It lets you know how to upload documents as appropriate. So for example, if I created project registration and I only had my ethics application that had been submitted and the document submitted, and I uploaded that but not the approval because my ethics is still under review, that's okay. If I now have that ethics approval, this tells me how to upload my ethics approval if it's available. So really useful, guys, if you're not familiar with the system, just expanding these bubbles as you need to. So what I'm going to do, let's go ahead and we'll try and keep it really nice. Okay, I'm just going to pop in just some information here. Again, I'm just putting my document, indemnity, if I could spell it would be good. My documents in here as required for the system. Any other documents I need to add, so for example, maybe I have a site pick form. I start typing participant consent form, and I've got, let's go, site. There you go. So I'm putting the version and date because my pick form has a version and date. If you've got obviously a really specific wording, put it in there. I'm keeping mine basic just for training, guys. So again, we're very mindful of how we add our document titles. And I'm just going to pop some documents in here. Okay, just dragging and dropping my documents. There we go. When you are submitting your application at this point, so your site application, this does need to be your final document because you're submitting it for review now. If it's a draft document, it's going to come back, guys. So at this point, we want to make sure this is our final document. Add as many documents as you need using the appropriate study document type here. Don't put everything as other, please specify. If you can find something close enough, try and use that. If you put everything as other, please specify. It can get a little bit messy from the document manager point of view for yourself and your research office. If I've added one too many, just delete. We can go next. If I had edit and submit access, it would be popping my name under the PI's name here, and I would have this complete SSA option. If I only have edit access, I would hit save at this point, let my PI or anyone with delegate submit access, know it's ready for submission, and nice and easy, we go complete SSA. What's happening at this point, just like we saw with the ethics application, it's generating the application to be submitted not to our research office yet. It's going to go to our header departments we've listed in the system. So same thing, we can download the application at this point if we wanted to, and this just lets us know it's been submitted. So you can see the status is completed pending HOD. That means the header departments or divisional directors we've listed within the application are going to get an email, and they're going to be asked to review the site application they're getting requested to support. Once all head of departments have made their decision, they've all supported the application, it then goes to the status of submitted, and it is automatically sent from your header department to your research governance office. So you don't have to do anything further at this point. You've submitted the application. It's now with that header department or header departments that you've got in the system there.